Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
Welcome back, listeners, to Psychic Bent. This episode, we are going to discuss the difference between a twin flame and a soulmate.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very interesting. I was surprised because a lot of people consider the twin flame to be the soulmate, but they're actually two different things completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people focus on the twin flame because there's a lot of mixed information, I think, out there on it. What's interesting about this episode, gang, is Kim and I are actually together recording this.
We're in my closet.
We're literally in her psychic closet.
Exactly.
So we're going to jive right on in. Like you said, a lot of people use soulmate and twin flame interchangeably, which I think at one point I even did that.
Oh, I know I did.
Because I thought the twin flame was, and I met someone that I was like, oh my gosh, they're a twin flame. And after the crash and burn of the relationship and then doing research on the twin flame, I'm like, oh yeah, they were. They were the twin flame.
They were.
So typically a twin flame is someone you meet and there's kind of a deja vu moment. You both feel that you've known each other, can't quite put your finger on how or where you've met. Mm-hmm. It's just a strong connection with intense emotions. You begin to date and ultimately have a romantic relationship. But in time, despite the intense connection, the relationship sours. And the instant connection may turn into a toxic relationship and end.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a love relationship. It could be like a mentorship or friendship or anything like that. It doesn't have to be romantic.
Right. You can't have more than one twin flame. And a soulmate is when you meet someone and you have an instant connection. You begin to date. You seem to complement each other perfectly. As a romantic partner, this person is all you have been looking for. They are your best friend, your lover, your supporter, and more. This is someone you may want for your life partner, and your connection stands up against all challenges that you encounter. Now, you can have soulmates that are just friends.
Yes.
You can have multiple soulmates. They could be family members. You can have a romantic soulmate.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the concept of the twin flames comes from the spiritual belief of reincarnation.
Yes.
The largest religious group that believes in reincarnation is Hinduism, although New Age religions also incorporate various forms of reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a brief definition of reincarnation is souls are housed in human bodies for life on earth. Once the person dies, the souls move into a spiritual realm and return to a new body. Now, some believe that this process continues until the soul has completed all its lessons and then moves into a permanent spiritual realm. Others believe that the process is continuous and never-ending.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I did find that there's another origin, left brain coming in, that the concept of twin flames is first believed to have shown itself in Greek mythology.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
The gods took one soul and split it into two. It comes from the symposium. I was going to say synopsis. That's not correct. Symposium from Plato. Mm-hmm. And the theory is presented that humans once had 4 arms and 4 legs and a single head with 2 faces, which we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. And there were also believed to be 72,000 twin flames out there. And these humans had an incredible depth of power, and the gods were threatened by it. So Zeus split them in 2, but the separation was hard, and the humans were sad, and they starved themselves, and in their misery, they were very sad about it. So Apollo decided to sew them back together, but the split was there, and each party would forever be seeking the second half. So I thought that was really...
That is interesting.
That is interesting.
Weird, but interesting.
Weird, I know, but interesting. So okay. I thought it was...
So, I mean, obviously, now that you know how the reincarnation concept works, it's not too difficult to imagine what a twin flame is. I mean, it's your mirror soul that happens during the transition stage. The soul splits into 2 mirror souls, and each soul returns to Earth in a separate body. When these 2 souls meet up on Earth, there's an immediate recognition or attraction. And that's where the twin flame connection comes from. Mm-hmm. Is that you don't know why you're immediately attracted to this person, but it's happening.
Right.
Your soul recognizes each other. The twin flame relationship is for really spiritual growth and lesson learning. Your twin flame relationship may very well turn romantic, but more often it will be tumultuous and not result in a permanent romantic relationship. That's because twin flames share with you a soul from a past life and compromise you for the sake of the greater spiritual awakening. And you're too much alike to be compatible. Too much alike. You just can't be, it won't be your soulmate.
Another way to look at it is that a soulmate may be cut from the same cloth, but the twin flame is your cloth.
Yes. Yes.
So
yeah.
that's a comparison.
And it's really weird to think that if you're in a romantic relationship with yourself,
right,
but your souls are identical, I could see where that would be conflict.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there that are in love with themselves. So
that's the narcissist. But
that's
yes,
right.
Yeah. So twin flames may not always encounter each other. But there's definite clues that you have met yours. Compared to a twin flame relationship to those that exist between real life twins, twin flames will experience many of the same bonds that real life twins do.
Yeah.
You share the same emotions and feelings at the same time when confronted with the same situation and events. You may have the same interests and points of view. They communicate with each other without saying anything. They have a silent and deep understanding of each other's thoughts and feelings, and it sounds like a magical romance. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's not a fairy tale, but a painful experience arranged for your personal growth.
Yeah, and that personal growth could be, the purpose of it could be just the spiritual growth that you have to go through, not just a life lesson, but
right.
Our growth together. It's literally your spiritual growth and lessons.
When you think about it, it's also, it helps break a pattern in your life. Whether it's, your dating pattern, whether it's how you're thinking about things, just kind of does a shift. I've had a twin flame experience, and it was a crash and burn experience. But at the time of meeting, it seemed like, and it's funny because at the time, I believed twin flames were the soulmate. And I knew it was my twin flame. I knew it was. But I wasn't making the connection that that's not always a good thing.
Right.
Because, and doing the research, because you even said, remember so-and-so? I think that was your twin flame. I went, I know. I'm aware. I've already done that.
I think I had one too, but it was more of a friendship one than an actual romantic one.
Right.
It was really an instant connection that we knew we were going to be best friends. I mean, it was just like from the minute we met, minute we interviewed together, it was just like, bam, we were connected. And it was a very strong connection. And I think our purpose in that relationship was to learn to grow and decide other relationships weren't proper in my life and stuff like that at that time or whatever. And it was, she went through a whole lot of tumultuous things in her relationships and such, and I was there for her, but she needed help through getting through her mom's, there was just different things that took place in our relationship. And then when I learned how to deal with people and to start cutting people out that didn't, because that's a lesson she was learning too, because we were kind of like helping each other through it, that it just stopped. Our relationship stopped because things happened in the life, and then she lost her mom. I helped her through that, and then it was like that was done.
You were done.
And then she passed several years ago. I didn't even know it. That's how much the break was.
Right. And it's very painful. Because you have that great connection with someone. You can feel their thoughts. You can, and that's what happened with this particular person. Like, I would call him. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I knew you were going to call. I just, was hammering something and hit my thumb.
Yeah.
And he was, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you think that's a very deep spiritual connection. But again, when the life lesson happens, it's hard to see it when you're in it, too.
Right.
Right. I could see that. But now a soulmate connection is totally different from the twin flame relationship, because it's two separate souls that form a deep connection based on compatibility. And as you move through life, you can certainly have more than one soulmate, even at the same time. So you could have soulmate friends, you could have soulmate romantic. Hopefully, you're not having two romantic soulmates.
Hey, but if that's your thing, that's your thing.
I'm not judging, but you can't stock two shelves. I'm just saying. And so as you move through life, you can have multiple at the same time. This is not about a past life like it is with the twin flame.
Mm-hmm.
This is more about harmony in your connection for the here and now.
Right.
So
Right.
where you're at in life. Soulmate relationships with romantic partners as a platonic friendship, or you can have sentiments with a family member. Those are all soulmate relationships. It feels the same in all these cases. You just to find yourself so compatible that naturally meet each other's needs.
Right, right. And another difference is, like you said, the twin flame could be short term. It's usually short term,
Yes.
but it can be lifetime. Whereas the soulmate, that could be any length of time at all. I mean, usually lifetime connection,
Usually
but that one's more long than the twin flame is.
Well, and I think what you're getting at is the twin flame. You could get drawn back in to it again,
Mm-hmm.
and then have the same hurt happen again because you have that connection.
Right.
You kind of like that. That's what happened with this particular person that was my twin flame. It was you kept getting drawn back in, and I had to do some major cord cutting.
Yeah, but it was your learning your lesson, though.
Yes, and evidently it took me a while to learn that lesson, or there were different lessons. Now there's some signs, some definite signs if you've met your soulmate. There's complementary traits. They have strengths you don't have, and your own strengths minimize their weaknesses. You balance each other's strengths and weaknesses out.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional security. You feel safe and comfortable with them, even in a negative situation. There's genuine care. You prioritize their happiness and they prioritize yours. And healthy dynamics, so you respect each other's independence and boundaries. So it's not that jealousy. There's no jealousy there. It's total trust. And you respect the boundaries. You're not pushing in,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see where the two would seem similar.
Yes.
It's just the intensity of the relationship. The twin flame just feels so overpowering and highly charged.
Right.
And
Right.
whereas the soulmate, it's just joy, harmony,
Yeah.
peace. You just feel you should be together.
Yeah. And when you find a romantic soulmate, the chances of the relationship becoming long-term and permanent are high. You can have your true selves throughout. You can just be yourself throughout the entire relationship, and you don't have to be anything else or change to be with this person, and vice versa. They don't have to change to be with you. And the soulmates just share a connection that is pretty much close to unconditional love as you can get
Right.
when you find your soulmate. Now, I do have 7 relationships differences between the soulmate and twin flames. Okay, so there's 7 relationship differences between soulmates and twin flames. So first, we're going to define the core difference straight. Soulmates are those who connect with you on all levels. You begin with a strong attraction in both cases, but as these relationships develop, you realize it's a soulmate when you have a desire to permanently spend time with them. Another difference already outlined is that you can have more than one soulmate over your lifetime and even at the same time. They can be new friends, long-term best friends, they can be romantic partners, but you only have to have one twin flame because you are a twin soul when a single soul split during transition. So twin flames and soulmates are not interchangeable. While both twin flames and soulmates mean having a deep connection, twin flames can in no way provide the same romantic love that a soulmate relationship can. If you're looking for a twin flame to be part of your love life, you can ditch the notion right now. Remember, twin flame is a mirror of you, and the person may help to keep you on the right path of growth and development, nothing less and nothing more than that. While a soulmate supports you in your goals, those are yours to choose, not theirs. Twin flames have the same growth and development plan. You and your soulmate do not. And you're just naturally compatible based on the personality paths you've taken.
That makes sense.
What's really funny is, during the research, you're like, oh, I should have recognized the twin flame.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of the spiritual growth. You don't always recognize it's a twin flame.
Correct. You feel it,
Yeah.
but you're not sure who it is.
Yeah, right. And I can see how it would be very easy to, when you meet your twin flame, if you meet your twin flame, totally connect and not even see the not danger, but the path is going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
You're going to come out scarred.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hopefully
but in a
not
good
scarred
way.
too much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in a learning way.
Learning way. There we go.
Yeah. Now, your soulmate and twin flames Many people versus only one part of two halves.
Okay, say that again.
Okay,
That was
so
confusing.
soulmate, many people, you get many people as soulmates, versus the twin flame, which is just one part of one half. So it's part of two halves.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You can only have one twin flame.
Yes. Yes. You can only have one in your life because there is only one divine masculine and one divine feminine possibility.
Right. You got your masculine,
Right.
feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can, and it's a question of finding your twin flames in your current incarnation. Not everyone can take this place in your life, but only one person on this planet. But the good news is that there may be many soulmate relationships in your life, which some have developed simultaneously. Having many soulmates in different roles is normal in your life, and that's great because of how harmonious it is. So,
Yeah.
whereas the twin flame can be a very, I don't want to say toxic relationship because it's not.
But it can be.
It can end in that way. It can develop into that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the twin flame relationships are based on similar personality traits because you're the same. Your twin flame is a mirror of you and will have the same traits, attributes that you do, including strengths and weaknesses. But soulmate relationships complement one another. Both partners may be at a different stage of their personal growth and development, but these soulmates share self love and support each other individually.
And that's why with the twin flame, you may not like that twin flame through a lot of the relationship because you're really seeing yourself.
Yes, you don't realize you're seeing your own self.
And it's kind of like having your bubble up and having the mirror up and it's
Right.
reflecting back to
Right.
that other person. It's the same thing.
You're not likely to have different viewpoints with same soul twin flames. So a twin flame and soulmate will look at things differently. If you've met a twin flame, your perspectives will be the same. That is because the inner work of twin flames is the same, making them one connection. A soulmate relationship means that partners learn from each other. Unlike twin flames, they are valuing their different perspectives and their opinions. Whereas, twin flame doesn't really care for your opinion because it's probably, first of all, the same.
Same.
And,
Well, it's the yin and yang type of relationship, though, so it could very well be the opposite all the time.
yeah. So a twin flame can be a very toxic relationship. It can happen when both soulmates and twin flames, but it's treated differently. Like with a one soul twin flame, you can often experience a toxic relationship. Although talking to the person can be hard, your connection cannot be broken. You two will always have an emotional connection, even if you don't talk to each other. Yeah, and I've had that happen with the twin flame.
Right.
We'd go for years and not talk to each other, and then all of a sudden a situation arises that run into each other or communication, and then you're back in.
Right.
And it still ends in the same. So so that can be very toxic for you because that's keeping you from moving on. If you keep, and plus you need to learn something because you keep going back. You haven't learned it yet. You need to wise up. Yeah. But I mean, I could see that where in a soulmate relationship, a person may end up in a toxic relationship too. But in this case, the ending is so much easier because you just simply part companies and company move on. You don't have that tie
Right.
like you do to your flame,
Right.
your twin flame. Now, soulmates tend to have simpler relationships. They just complement and support each other as well as compromise and even celebrate the differences between each other. Twin flame relationships are much more complicated and they are more intense because of the spiritual connection. This relationship can bring conflict, pain, and even the motivation for one of the soul halves to run away. They are trying to help each other overcome their weaknesses and faults, and this often translates into judgment and criticism.
Right.
Which, of course, like what you said, you put in the mirror in front of yourself to
Right.
see that. So it just can make it into just a lot of drama. The relationship turns into drama.
And you could also possibly develop an obsession for that twin flame.
Yes.
Because it is so emotionally charged.
Right. Now, the purpose of a soulmate and twin flame relationships are different. Twin flames have the purpose of cleansing each other of faults and promoting mutual spiritual growth and development. Because they are mirrors of each other, they see their weaknesses in each other as the same. They are intense in their need to mutually overcome these weaknesses and develop strengths. Soulmates don't do this. Each person in the relationship accepts the other with all of their strengths and faults and does not have a burning desire to force the other person to work on growth. The purpose of a soulmate relationship is acceptance, compromise, and building together within the realm of those differences.
Right.
And it's really funny when you go back and you look at past relationships, because, you know, you get into this every time we seem to do a new topic, somehow it ends up me going back and looking at past relationships.
Oh, definitely. Every
You know, it's
time I do that.
like, okay. You know, it makes perfect sense that the twin flame and soulmate are two totally different things. You know, different entities altogether. And it makes sense why the twin flame is the big draw. It's just, I think people just are using twin flame interchangeably as soulmate.
Right.
Anytime you feel like you're falling in love, you want it to be the one. Everybody does that. You're like, oh, but I'll see. I've got one person on Facebook. They're dramatic, I guess you could call them. You know, everything that's going on in their life, if you know about it because it's on Facebook.
Right.
And this particular person, I think, has had several twin flames and several soulmates from what they keep posting. And I'm like, going, you can't have several twin flames, you know. but every time it's a new relationship, it's
The one.
the one. And I think we all do that to a point. That this particular person is just very dramatic about it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I think she might be a narcissist, but just saying. Just saying. That's my point of view.
Yeah, that is. But a lot of times we're searching for that soulmate, and you may not find that soulmate, and that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's a healthy relationship,
Right.
is what's important.
Right.
You got to be able to identify between the toxic for the twin flame, because it all does end up with the twin flame being a very charged relationship.
Yeah.
You're on that roller coaster,
Right.
and it shouldn't be a roller coaster.
Right.
It should be a smooth.
Now, I did come across 17 weird or unusual soulmate signs.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Soulmate signs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go down that road?
Yeah, sure.
We got plenty of time.
Yeah, I didn't have research on this one, so I'm really interested in looking on this.
Sorry.
No, that's nothing to be sorry about.
17 weird or unusual soulmate signs. Maybe you've experienced a weird sign or two in your own relationship, so we're going to check them out. Number 1, things aren't that great at first. You don't have many of the same beliefs or hobbies. Sometimes you frustrate the heck out of one another. Logically, you know you have absolutely nothing in common. Despite this fact, you can't stay away from them, and they can't stay away from you. Eventually, you grow on one another, and the great truth about this kind of relationship is that it builds quite slowly, but often ends up being an exceptionally deep and dedicated relationship.
Okay, well, when you first started off with that one, it sounded like a twin flame, but then the deep relationship brought it back to soulmate. Got it. Okay.
You enjoy bantering about your differences. When it's simply romantic love, you may think things aren't working out when you realize there are so many differences between you and your partner. However, if you enjoy bantering and debating about those differences, you can chalk that up to being one of these weird soulmate signs.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
Definitely.
Number 3, they aren't your physical type. When you think about your ideal lover, you may have a pretty detailed visual in mind. You know, if you did the Harlequin romances back in the day, it was Fabio with the long hair. That's not my thing, but you may
Right.
have a mental picture. We all do
Preconceived
it.
notion of what it should look like. Yeah.
That's totally normal. But most people have a physical type that they find most attractive. This isn't a bad thing, but you may be surprised to find yourself falling in love with someone that doesn't fit the image at all. In fact, you may even have what you might have considered to be physical flaws.
Right.
Because it's weird soulmate signs like this one indicate that you relate to them on a much deeper level than physical appearance. It isn't so much that you can overlook something about their appearance. Instead, you find yourself feeling surprisingly attracted to those features.
Right. Because in regular relationships, you are basing it on that mental picture that you have or persona that you're wanting, and that's when that surprise comes in, because then you're open to this soulmate to come in and knock your socks off.
Right. Number 4, you don't like how they make you feel. Of all the weird soulmate signs, this one may be the weirdest. How it is that you feel bad when you meet your soulmate. When two souls connect, they can create feelings of uncertainty and imbalance. You may experience a sense of vulnerability or other intense emotions that can be difficult to process. This may even manifest as hard feelings or conflict. It's pretty common for someone to argue with their soulmate bitterly at the beginning of a relationship, at least until they resolve their emotions. So to me, it's more like your insecurities. Like you're drawn to this person, You don't know why you're drawn to this person. And I think that's basically talking about your own weird insecurities that you're
Well,
bringing into the
well,
relationship.
yeah, because if it's that person that you never thought you would be interested in,
Right.
that could cause you to feel
Yeah.
these all
Yeah.
negative emotions about yourself.
Yeah, especially if you didn't connect at first. But
Right.
then, because you're probably putting the roadblock up because that's not my mental view of what I had in mind
Right.
for someone to have an experience with, being in a relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Number 5, you experience a surreal feeling of peace. In addition to irritation, that's funny. You may feel very serene when you meet your soulmate. That's a feeling of comfort and safety that arise in your immediate connection. If you've experienced something like that, that's a sign you feel complete when you are with them.
I could see that from the very initial before the other things kick in. You know, when you first meet that person,
Right.
just as that instant not connection, but when you very first introduce to this person, you feel that.
Yeah.
And then everything else kicks in.
Yeah.
You know, the doubts, the insecurities, the what? You know.
Yeah. And you could be your worst enemy when it comes to any relationship,
Right.
because you're bringing your past garbage in, your
The ego, everything.
ego,
Yeah.
yes. And then there you are. And as a psychic, not everybody's open to dating a psychic
True.
or marrying a
True.
psychic, or because they don't understand.
Mm.
And then they forget that you tell them this, and then you do something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." So it's kind of like that kind of situation as well.
Right.
So that might be a conflict as well as being psychic and single,
Sure.
or
And
psychic and married, and coming to terms with the fact that you're psychic and your spouse doesn't know
yeah.
you're psychic.
And then you meeting them as a psychic, your psychic abilities and stuff are trying to read them and
Yes.
everything instead of just
Yeah.
shutting that down at the moment. But then you want to know
What kind of person they are?
who is this person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 6, you can't stay mad even if you try. Everyone has character flaws, but another weird soulmate sign is the inability to stay mad at each other or about them. I mean, you just can't stay mad at each other. No matter how much you get on each other's nerves, there is still that spiritual level connection that draws you back to one another. You can't help but return to your true love. So even though you might have a spat,
Yeah. You're not holding the grudge
right?
or the negative thoughts all the time about that
Right.
person or for what they did or what you did or
And I think if it's not a real relationship, that happens a lot, where the spat happens or conflict, and then I walk away. It's interesting because we've all had those type of relationships where I didn't care if you walked away.
yeah.
Fine, walk away. There's the door.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
So that's obviously not a twin flame or a soulmate. That's just get out.
That's just get out.
There's the door. Just go. Number 7, what you have transcends even a very loving relationship. So one of the most intense, weird soulmate signs comes when you realize your feelings are a combination of deep respect, sexual attraction, spiritual connection, and genuine fondness. This person is your friend, lover, intellectual sparring partner, and ultimately your weird soulmate.
Yeah. And that goes to what I was saying earlier that some people may not meet their soulmate,
Yes.
but they are in and able to have a loving relationship.
Correct. Yes.
So don't worry if you don't feel like you've met your soulmate. You can still have a long-term, lifelong, loving relationship.
Yes. Yes. Don't. We're not saying go out and get divorced because you're not having any of these signs.
Exactly.
We're not condoning that, or don't go breaking up with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, just because. Now, number 8, no topic is off limits. Have you ever been with a person whom you could basically be an open book to? This includes weird and ugly stuff like bodily functions, the embarrassing things that make us all human, and also weird soulmate signs when you combine with another person over them.
Right. That is a good one because we are all closed books when we meet people to begin with. We're
Yes.
not totally open.
No.
And even friendships, you may not be totally open,
Right.
but when you are actually able to speak about the farts and everything,
Yeah.
your bowel movements and everything.
And that's something you really don't talk about when
Right.
you're wanting someone to like you and you're going on dates and you have to excuse yourself.
Yeah.
I have to go park.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it in your presence.
That's
Sorry if that's offending anyone. But
yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
if you're an open book in this relationship and they're an open book as well, then this could be your
Right.
soulmate. Number 9, awkward silences are common.
Are common?
Are common.
Okay.
Who is this person? What am I getting myself into? Why do I feel this way? What do I even say to them? You find yourself wondering about these things, and so do they. And this leads to awkward silences that define our next weird soulmate sign.
So I guess this is at the initial,
The
the
beginning.
beginnings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Where there's awkward silence, don't know what to say.
Right. Because
Kind
I
of.
was gonna say, as a relationship goes, that should go away.
Yeah,
It should
yeah.
just be comfortable silence
Right.
by that point in
Right.
time.
But when you think about it, if it's a relationship you've never felt before,
Right.
I could see going, who is this person?
Yeah.
What am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
And we like to have self talks and self conversations, and sometimes they're not healthy for us to do some of the topics.
Right.
But I could see where there would be awkward.
Yeah. At the beginning, yeah,
Yeah.
I could definitely
Yeah.
see that.
So number 10, you have a deep gut feeling this is right. Not all soulmate signs indicate that everything is falling right into place, but as much as your intuition and deep connection from the outside in, everything might seem wrong about this relationship. The timing might be off. You may have a different personality type from them, and the world may seem against the two of you being together. You will know that in your situation, most people would move on. Still, it doesn't matter. When the two of you lock eyes, staying together makes sense.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And that also applies with the friend soulmates.
Yes, right. And so any relationship is not perfect.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be flaws because we're human.
The human factor.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have free will.
Yep.
And sometimes we do stupid things.
All the time I do.
But the gut feeling or your intuition,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel that this is someone you need to really drawn to, and you know that you're supposed to be with them. But a lot of times we don't like to accept that.
Right. Because we think that gut feeling is a negative thing sometimes.
And sometimes you've meet them and it's not the right time.
Yeah.
Different situations are going on in life. Maybe you're not to that stage. You haven't gone through the twin flame burn, and now you're where you need to be. Or you might be in a relationship and they're in a relationship, so it's not the time. You're not ready,
Right.
or they're not ready.
And that would be the romantic type of a relationship.
That would be the romantic type of relationship, yes. Which most people, when you say soulmate, that's what they long for. Is that romantic?
Right.
Where having a friend that's a soulmate, or I firmly believe I have a very best friend. I've been best friends all through high school, and she's been accepting of everything in life. And I actually the other day told her I was psychic and we were doing a podcast, and she comes from a very religious background, and I wasn't, she's like, oh, send me the link, I want to listen to it. I'm like, cool. So I mean, she would be my friend soulmate.
Right.
We've been through so much together, so the things that we met in junior high, all the drama you go through junior high and high school, the marriages, and,
Right.
and the birth of her children and the connection, and then their marriage, to other. It's like, we've gone through all this stuff together. The loss of her father, the loss of my mother, and that bond is just never, I mean, I won't see, she lives in Illinois, I'm in North Carolina, we don't talk daily, but whenever we together, it's just back to being friends, just like we never were apart. So that's definitely a soulmate friend.
Correct.
But like I said, most people fantasize, I guess, about that soulmate relationship.
Right.
That's
Romantic.
And I am talking with my hands. And I think with a lot of times with our psychic abilities, we don't trust our intuition a lot.
I agree
When,
with that.
when you're like, okay, I'm meeting this guy for a first time, my gut feeling's saying this, but he's really cute. So I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to go out with him, and you go, I should have listened to my gut, because my intuition was saying no, spirit was saying no, don't go there.
Right.
And then you go on that date, and now you're trying to get out of it, because you didn't listen to it, because we have free will, and we try to talk ourselves into something sometimes that's not really good for us,
Right.
or we give in to pressure.
Yeah. Pressure from them,
Yes.
usually. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to, go with your intuition and strengthen that muscle. so that when you do have an encounter, because it would be horrible to miss out on a great friendship, a twin flame friendship,
True.
that because you're not listening to your intuition,
Mm-hmm.
So I think psychically it's a very, very good thing to trust your gut all the time.
All the
All the
time.
time. Number 11, you trust one another deeply almost immediately. Sometimes a person will come into our lives and we experience an immediate sense of safety around them. When that feeling is mutual, that person could be your soulmate for life. If you feel no hesitation about sharing information about your life with this person, you're letting them into your world. You both of you want to help the other and become better versions of themselves, so you don't worry about oversharing.
Yeah, that's very
You know,
important. Yeah.
and what's funny is when you first, it's been a while since Kim's dated,
Yeah, a long time.
long time. So, but what goes on in life today, ghosting, which we've talked about on
Yes.
previous
Yes.
episodes,
Hmm.
where you meet someone, you start talking to them, you're texting back and forth, and then all of a sudden, poof,
They
gone.
stop. Yep.
They stop. And I think part of that is you're talking to them, you're not physically speaking to them.
Hmm.
So you can't get the tone. You can't get, are they distracted? Do they sound distracted? What's going on? And in messaging back and forth, you don't really get the full feeling. And I think you kind of can overshare information with someone who's really not 100% on board like you are.
Right. Right.
But you can't tell that because you're not physically talking. And I think psychically, it's hard for some psychics to read text messages
Yes, I
to get
agree.
the full, and then all of a sudden they're no longer talking to you because you overshared.
Yeah. But sometimes you can pick up on those,
Yeah, sometimes you
the
can.
tone in the messages psychically.
Yeah. For me, if I have met them,
Hmm.
I can pick it up.
Right.
But if this is someone that you haven't really met, you just know of them,
Hmm.
and you start messaging back and forth.
Right.
Because if I don't have an interaction with them to make that connection, I can't do it over the text message. Sometimes, but usually I have to meet them for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so that.
Yeah, because you tend to share them with me and say, "Well, you get off this."
Yeah.
Yeah. That was in the past.
Okay, so number 12, you feel seen. Even if you have great friends and family in your life, it's easy to get into a rut. Without realizing it, you begin to feel invisible. And I'm looking at Kim
Yes.
with the look like,
Yes. Yes.
You might have people to talk to, but everybody is so busy with their own lives, so the interactions may feel shallow. After all, people who want to have fun, they don't always have the time or emotional energy for deep connections or conversations. Then you meet someone who truly wants to hear about your life and your emotions. No matter how hectic their life is, they are available to talk or just sit with you. That is a pretty intense soulmate sign right there.
That is a big one.
Yeah. Kim has moments where she's actually invisible.
I do.
I mean, I could see her, but
Right. Oh my gosh, it's happened probably since childhood, wouldn't you say?
yeah,
Yeah, I'll
going
be
to a restaurant.
going to a restaurant and be sitting at the table, and then they don't take your order, but they take everybody else's orders. Like, hello,
Can I eat too?
Can I eat too? Everybody gets a refill on their glass, and mine's been empty. Hello, and holding it up, and they still don't take my cup. It's crazy.
I've witnessed the phenomena. Otherwise, I'd be saying, Kim, you're overreacting, but I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen.
it happens.
So
It's crazy.
so I think you are, because I've done it psychically where I'm at work and it's very busy. I don't want to be seen today. Don't want to be seen today.
Yeah.
And you might have been, because you shut down in busy places and restaurants are busy. So you could have been your version of hiding in the Depends aisle. You
Right.
could have just been, don't see me. And then you're like, but I want to eat.
I gotta let it down so I can eat, but yeah.
But because I think you could do that psychically as a form of protection. Just you're still visible, obviously. I'm not walking around like the Invisible Man, but it's you're not drawing attention to yourself like as an empath would do. You pull people to you with your empath abilities, and I think I just kind of like shut that off. Just don't talk to me. Don't be. I'm invisible today.
You make your bubble pretty
Yeah.
thick whenever that happens.
Yeah, and I also shut off my psychic abilities when I do that
Yeah.
to enhance the don't talk to me. Thing, and not making eye contact helps. But,
Sure,
but
it does.
So I think that you probably had done that,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when I'm wide open at work, which I practice on and off, but when the other people that have abilities, they seem to know when I'm wide open, and they come over and they're wide open, and then it's like, oh gosh, okay, we're gonna do this, It's like, I'm wide open. Oh shoot,
It's like you're sending out this
yeah,
signal.
yeah,
Come here, everybody. I'm ready. I'm
yeah.
ready.
The
I'm
bat
ready.
signal
Yep.
went off,
Yep. That's right.
and it's funny that they come right on over. They've got something to tell me. I'm like, okay, you know. So I think that maybe that might be something that you do subconsciously.
Probably. Yeah. I would say it's self-conscious.
Yeah, I don't think
Or
you're doing it
sub.
on purpose.
Yeah. It's not being done on
Yeah.
purpose.
Number 13, it feels wrong to be apart. Words can't really describe what it's like to be apart from your soulmate. Sure, if you can't see your best friend for a while, you miss them intensely. But when it's your soulmate, it's different. You find yourself spiraling, thinking, but what do I do now? It's difficult to explain. You experience it in real life. But after you meet your soulmate, you just are weirdly like, why aren't they with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Why aren't they with you? Wish I could see them. It
You're
does
missing them.
it
Yeah.
missing them, an
Yeah.
intense missing
Yeah.
of them, and why haven't they texted me right now, or why haven't they called
Yeah.
me? You get all, are they with somebody else? Little doubts start popping in. Well, I mean, it could happen,
Yeah. At the beginning, because you get that connection. Well, psychically you would know.
Psychically, you would know. I'm just throwing
Yeah,
things out there
yeah.
that people could experience in
And I
that
think that's where your
questioning.
self-doubt comes in.
Yeah,
Your self-talk.
the
The
self-talk. Yeah,
self-talk. Yeah.
exactly.
It's
That's
too
where
good to be true.
that's where I was going
Too
with
good to be
that.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should see us in this.
Yeah.
Our hands are flying
Flying,
everywhere.
yeah.
And talking. And if you hear whoosh, whoosh, whoosh in the podcast, that's just our hands flying in the air.
That's right.
Okay, number 14. Making up can be really strange. Don't think that fights don't happen between you and your soulmate, your people. It's
Right.
going to happen. Both of you keep things way too real for things to be peaceful all the time. The good news is that you always make up. But with your soulmate, making up can be a bit strange. For example, when you make up with a friend or a lover, you might apologize, talk things through, and then an incident is quickly forgotten. You just go on with it. Making up with your soulmate might include making eye contact and mutually bursting into tears, looking at one another and breathing a sigh of relief because you both know things are okay, bringing your soulmate the gift of food, turning on your favorite song, amazing makeup sense, often with neither of you saying a word.
Yeah. You just do.
Because you're not leaving, you're not ending it, because you're that connection. Your soulmate rarely need to engage in a bunch of dialogue after an argument. You almost own secret code to communicate even after you've had a spat. So it's kind of like a secret code.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or they apologize and it's awkward, but they're doing it and they're sincere. You could tell
Right.
they're sincere, but it's awkward.
Right. You feel it is that way.
Yeah.
You get
And
their
you're like,
feeling
it's okay.
as well. Yeah.
And it's okay. Number 15, you're weirdly in sync. Your soulmate is not someone you have to explain things to. They just get you. At times, it's a bit of a eye contact and subtle body language for you to have an entire conversation with one another. They understand the real meaning behind the subtle cues and get your weird moods. This is a person who shares inside jokes with you and the one who just seems to know what you're going to do next.
Yeah. And it also involves the saying what the other person's thinking.
Yes. Which
Exactly what they're thinking.
which I'm going to get off topic like I always do. Obviously, I'm here in town and staying with Kim and her husband, and we mutually answered him today in stereo.
Yeah. It was in stereo.
And he was kind of like, that's weird.
He's used to me doing that, but saying what he's
yeah.
thinking too.
Yeah,
and
but we both did it to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, we thought it was great.
We thought it was.
I don't think he did. Yeah. So number 16, you might make other people uncomfortable. You and your soulmate don't mean to do it, but sometimes you make the people around you feel a bit weird. You're just so connected to each other that even in the same room, you can make others feel a bit voyeuristic. If you have a friend say that, I feel like the third wheel, or am I being intrusive? Those are signs that you found your soulmate. That's a good thing, but be careful. You don't want every person in your life to feel like an outsider.
Yeah. Too much PDA. They feel like, too much PDA. Public display of affection.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm like looking at Kim going, huh?
What is PDA?
PDA?
I was going there.
Okay. I'm like, I don't get it. Raise my hand.
That's how they get the feeling of uncomfortable around, other people feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable and such.
Number 17, you let one another get away with things. They make up the entire bed when you sleep together. They borrow your favorite shirt and then takes weeks to return it. Meanwhile, you snack in front of their living room TV despite their strict rule about eating outside of the kitchen. Neither of you would let anybody else in your life do these things, but somehow you let one another push these boundaries. This is usually because the little things simply don't bother you about the other one. So you're more tolerant of these things because it's like, okay, well,
it is
you're
what
not
it
going
is.
anywhere. So, yeah.
Exactly. I'll do this. You accept it.
Yep. Now it's time for the reality check about these signs. It's the most amazing thing when you find the person who is truly your soulmate. However, don't fall prey to wishful thinking, which we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The truth is that in most cases, bickering and being incompatible and uncomfortable around one another simply mean you aren't meant to be.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just
So
not supposed to happen.
So don't rush things just because you see many of these signs of your soulmate. And don't stay in a relationship that makes you feel like your life is miserable because of the engagement of wishful thinking. So be kind of open and honest with yourself. You could almost make any of these signs work for your current relationship, you know?
And sometimes it's just not the right relationship.
Right. And so don't be miserable in a relationship because you think it's your soulmate. It's not your soulmate if you're miserable.
Right. If you're
Right.
constantly hurting each other verbally and emotionally, that's not soulmate
Right.
or twin flame.
Yeah.
That,
just because you want it to be.
correct.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, it could just be a very bad relationship.
Yeah, you want to give things some time to gain footing, but don't waste precious months or years of your life with someone that isn't meant to be.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
and that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
It does happen a lot.
It's happened to everybody.
Yeah, and never lose yourself, even if you do find your soulmate.
A lot of times you do lose yourself, and it's not the soulmate. And then it's very difficult to find yourself again.
Right. Yeah. If you're involved in a relationship, you want to maintain your own identity. You don't want to give up your sense of self, which in some relationships that does happen.
Yeah.
If you are not maintaining your interests, if you're not doing your hobbies, if you're not enjoying friendships with new people or current friends, then this is not a good relationship. This is not a soul mate or a twin flame.
Right.
Because you have to have your interests, your hobbies, that's part of you. And if you find yourself giving up on those things, then you're not in either one of those relationships.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, a platonic soulmate is a bond with this person you've never experienced before. There's just one issue. You aren't connected in the bedroom at all.
Right.
There's no romantic relationship.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a good chance that you've made a special discovery that it's a platonic soulmate, and this person is just an amazing friend, and you just enjoy the experience being their friend.
That's your friend that you have, that you described.
But I think some people can confuse a male-female friendship that's just a platonic soulmate. They can confuse that with, because there's that connection. And other people are just like, hey, my buddy. You're my bud. And you get many of those, which are great for you. We have solid relationships like that.
And the thing is that, as you were describing, a male-female platonic relationship can have an impact on that person's, whichever one it is, romantic relationship that they may have. And if that partner isn't willing to accept that soulmate friendship between...
then that's not your soulmate.
That's
romantically.
not romantic.
Yeah,
and that might just be a romantic relationship, but maybe not a healthy one.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting, the 17 strange signs, the soulmate. I don't have 17 strange signs of a twin flame. Because I think it's pretty... When you get out of a twin flame relationship, it's very obvious you were just in one.
True.
But going into it, if you're confusing soulmate with twin flame, and you may want to believe that whole twin flame is it, and there's no soulmate, that's cool. If that resonates with you, that's fine. But many people are going into a relationship, oh my gosh, it's a twin flame, and you better like, oh man, you better hope not. It's like, no, you have the soulmate, not the twin flame.
Yeah, because that twin flame relationship is really, like I said earlier, roller coaster.
Yes.
You've got many ups and way many downs. I mean, it's not just the smooth...
Right.
type of relationship, which in a soulmate relationship, there are some ups and downs
Yes,
too,
that's
but they're
life.
not as life is invading,
Right.
right, for the
Right.
soulmate. But that twin flame, it's you fighting you, more or less, or
Yes.
it's you in a relationship with you, and your ego plays in. It's just like your ego and not. Once you meet that twin flame, that's that up and down thing. It can be harmful to yourself
It can,
too.
because I mean, if you don't take a look at, like you said earlier, it's the mirror being put in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not wanting to address what you're seeing with the mirror put in front of your face, that twin flame's going to come back into your life
Right.
until you finally gain that strength that you've learned stuff and you're like, okay, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
And you do it again. But but you
Yeah.
finally get to that point where you can sever that tie with the twin flame with cord cutting, which we're going to get into cord cuttings and different things like that for because anytime you interact with someone, that you have a cord from them to you
Mm-hmm.
that binds you, just like there's a cord that binds your soul to you.
Right, to your body.
Cord cutting is something that you should do periodically. Now there's different ways of cord cutting. We both have done the meditative type.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the candles with the cord tied around it, burning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I did that cord cutting after my marriage broke up, when I felt it was time
Mm-hmm.
to, because I didn't want to feel any of his feelings anymore. And being psychic, you get that connection, and that, so cord cutting is very important for, I think, your psychic health.
Yeah, I've even done a dream cord
Yep.
cutting. Yep.
Yep. And so we're going to do an episode on the different types of cord cutting.
How to and everything.
And the
Yeah.
different types and stuff. It's very important to cut these cords, just because the emotional ties, you have to cut it. Because a twin flame, you feel them. And so every time they pop into your head, which is going to happen because they're the other part of you, you should do a cord cutting.
Right. And if you haven't learned your lesson in this lifetime with that
Right.
twin flame, you'll meet him in the next life.
Part two.
to learn, or if there's another lesson,
Yes.
a different lesson to learn,
Yeah.
then that twin flame will
Yeah.
come
And,
back in.
you may not believe in reincarnation, so I get that. It's something that I think most psychics believe in. I could be wrong. I could just be generalizing people when I shouldn't. But I just feel like you keep coming back until you've learned your lesson. And then you find peace up in a different realm.
Well, I think you have many purposes as a soul to do different things.
Yeah. Yep.
It may be you coming back to teach somebody else a lesson.
Yeah.
Not
That just sounds
yourself.
bad. I'm coming back to teach you a lesson. I'm going to haunt you. It's like, I'm not crossing over.
Sorry, that did sound a little bad, but I just think you have your purposes,
Yes.
and you become a spirit guide for somebody
Right,
else.
for somebody else, yes.
And
Yes.
that's teaching a
Yes.
lesson there as
Yeah,
well.
so it's not
anyway.
necessarily going to come back and and you can do it, I think, at any time. It might not be right away, because you obviously have to go through review your past life, and there's a process once you've crossed over. But we won't really know till we get there, because when we come back, we forget. So
Yeah,
we pick it up as we go. Kim and I did a craft show this weekend together.
we did.
Yeah, at a very large high school with lots of people, very exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you have vendors that are upset because they're not selling, or they didn't get put where they wanted to be, and you've got all that emotion, and then you've got people shopping for Christmas, and it's just a big drain. But can I talk? It's all about.
Sure.
Okay. I had two young ladies came to my table, and the one had bought rose quartz from me the previous year, and she was letting me know that she had to quit wearing it because it was really working. And the rose quartz helps you with self-love. It also helps you speak your own truth, find your voice. And evidently she found her voice very well. And so we were talking about it, and the other young lady walked away, and we goes, because she wasn't into the whole metaphysical stone thing. That's great. Not everybody gets it. But, the other one wanted to buy something. And so she was looking at some of my different stones and pendants, and she was buying something. And I just kind of said, hey, my sister and I do a podcast on psychic development that you just might be interested in, because I just felt the overwhelming. I need to mention it.
Right.
A lot of times at craft shows, we don't promote the fact that we're psychic,
Right.
but we're wanting to promote the podcast. So we thought we would kind of get out of that closet to the craft show. And so I just felt like I needed to tell her. And she said, well, I think I'm an empath. I said, oh, good. I said, well, she wanted to know what is the podcast name. And I gave it to her, and she took her phone out. She looked it up. And I said, you need to let your friend know, too. She goes, yeah, she thinks she's got stuff going on, so I'm going to let her know. And she shared the podcast information with her friend, and her friend was so grateful to find the podcast. And that really made us feel good, and hopefully it's helping her. But she's already started listening to the podcast, and she's reached out to us messaging, and we've been responsive because anytime you have a question and you can't find your tribe, you feel like you're out on your own. It's nice to make that one connection with someone who doesn't mind answering your questions, and they get you. They get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Even if your gifts are different, it's still, we appreciate so much this listener, like meeting a new listener and getting a new listener and getting what they've been going through. Right. And then we've been able, because we've both been answering her messages, and she may not know it's both of us, because we're on the same email. But it was nice to be able to answer her questions and give support to someone who has not had support.
Right.
So if you want to reach out, and I know we always say you can reach out to us, but we do respond.
Yes, we do.
We will respond. And like I said, we keep your name out of it, and unless you just wanted the world to know that this is you and that you sent your email in. Yeah. But we want to help, and that's the purpose of why we started the podcast. So it was just made us feel good that we were able to help someone.
Right.
And we recommended certain episodes to listen to if they wanted to, but they start at the beginning, and they're learning so much already, and they're very excited in their growth, which is great. So if anybody out there has any questions, or you feel like you're just out there on your own and nobody understands the psychic aspect of it, you're able, reach out to us, and maybe we can give you some good answers or at least support.
And you can do that by going to the Facebook page, Psychic Bent Podcast, and clicking on messages and send us a message there.
Right.
Or also the email address at psychicbent1@gmail.com. Yes, I'm throwing those out there.
Yes. Well, I think some people don't reach out because they don't think they have a valid question, or they don't feel that they're going to be heard, or
they're not comfortable with themselves.
Yes.
And they think we'll judge them, which we won't ever judge.
No, we don't judge. Everybody's got a different path to walk, and it's not our place to say whether or not you're on the right path or not, because it's your path. I had someone find me yesterday at the craft show that was psychic. Yeah, she came to my booth, and she's looking at everything. She kept looking up at me, and she goes, "This is the best booth here." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks. 2 thumbs up." But I knew she was psychic. Yeah. And she knew I was, but no one was talking about it. And she went on, and she was there for hours shopping, because it was a very large craft show. And hours later, she pops back up, and now she's, well, I'm psychic, and I'm like, well, I know, and so we had a long conversation, but she was very open out there, psychic. She likes to go to psychic fairs to read the psychics, and I just thought that was funny. I said, well, I go to psychic fairs, and I don't tell them I'm psychic. She goes, ooh, that's always good, because you want to see, is this a true psychic reading? Is this person really, really psychic? And sometimes they may not be on that day.
Exactly.
Or sometimes they're just not.
Right. And with my experiences through the craft fair, was just people stopping to give me their stories.
Yes, empath.
Yeah, it was my empath moments, which I enjoy hearing the stories too.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a shirt on yesterday that had gold thread, and it was the sun card from Tarot.
Yes.
And some people looked at it and knew what it was, and some people were like, oh, I like your shirt. This one gal walks up and she goes, I like your shirt. And with the way she said it, I'm like, she knows that's a tarot card. And I said, I like the taste you have in things. And, and we're just interacting. They weren't looking to buy anything. It was just a polite conversation. And her bag had the same emblem on it. Oh, no. She turns and I'm like, I like your bag. And she went, oh, I didn't realize I had it with me. So it was a connecting moment where no one was saying anything.
Right.
But she was into the tarot. I didn't get psychic, but I got that she was into tarot and other things and that. So
yeah, that's
no
funny.
Judgment there.
No
but
judgment.
Just funny.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny. She's like, and I think she thought, does she realize she's wearing a tarot card?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I know. I know what this is.
I know. I just couldn't believe I found it in a department store.
Right?
Like,
Actually, those are showing up more and more in department stores, really.
Yes. Well, it's the movement.
Yes, or people buying them may not realize that's what that is.
Yeah, like
They
the moon
just
phases.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, the
Yeah.
moon
Yeah, I've
phases.
got
Yeah.
one of those shirts too. I got it at the same department store. Oh, I'll take this and this. Thank you. Well, that wrap this up, Kim. Is there anything else you want to add to? So, have you ever, you've had a friend that was your twin flame?
Right.
Yeah. So, what about the soulmate?
Well, I think I've got that now. So.
I was just checking. I'm just checking. You guys have been married a very long time.
Very long time, yeah.
Very, very compatible. But I was just going to see if you'd go there.
Yeah.
You know,
30 years, you know,
yeah,
so it's a long
yeah,
time. So.
yeah.
Married to him more than I was not married.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping I've met my soulmate.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't know if you were ready for that.
Well, it was funny. I don't know if the listeners want to know this or not. He asked me out years ago, and I was seeing the twin flame
Right.
when he asked me out, and I said no because I was involved in this relationship with my twin, which sounds really weird.
Yes,
Say it
exactly.
that way. And that was years ago. I mean, I would say probably about 6 years ago.
Yep.
And he still remembers to this day I told him no. And then he was married, and then I was married, and then he had a girlfriend. We're both ended up being single, and it just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, and we did have a big awkward silence moment,
Right.
but it worked out, you know, and it's
Right.
just been, Kim tells me I'm being giddy.
Like a little teenager.
But, and it's fun to feel this way because I'm not used to that.
Right.
You know, so I'm really hoping, soulmate, so send good vibes. But, yeah.
I keep telling her, just enjoy the moment as it's happening.
Yes. So it's definitely not a twin flame.
Yes.
It's definitely not a twin flame because I've
Definitely
done
not.
that. And I
Right.
know that. So, all right, hey, listeners, I'm going to quit talking about my personal life now. and we can end this podcast on a high note, not my personal life.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, listeners, thanks for listening. Again, reach out to us on Facebook. Follow us. Please like and follow the podcast on any
Any of the platforms.
of the platforms. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.